My source tonight is the pride of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and the host of CNN's Smerconish, Michael Smerconish. Who better?
Thank you. My mother will love that. She thanks you.
We aim to please moms with this show. But seeing her on the road in these two counties where she's probably the weakest when it comes to the whole state, the Commonwealth overall, she's clearly trying to cut into those areas, though. What do you make of where she picked to go today?
Well, those are areas where Barack Obama was successful and Hillary Clinton was not. She wants to emulate the former and not the latter. There's an expression in business, you got to ask for the order, right? When I was trying cases as an attorney, I had to ask for the verdict. She's making the ask. But I think it transcends being in just those two areas, because what's she talking about when she's there? Among other things, she's talking about her prosecution of Mexican drug cartels. She's talking about the need to apply for a job without necessarily requiring something more than a high school diploma. She spoke today on a Pennsylvania television affiliate, the ABC affiliate in Philadelphia, about her own gun ownership. These are all issues that help move her more toward the center. So she's asking for the order in those areas, but she's sending a message to the nation as well that she's not the San Francisco progressive you've been told that she is.
Yeah, and what did you make of that interview she did? Because she was criticized for not doing more media interviews. She's done the CNN interview with Governor Tim Walz, but no others since becoming the nominee, no other major ones. But she's clearly going to local TV in Pennsylvania to try to appeal to people who are watching the news as they're getting home and cooking dinner and with their kids on a Friday night.
I don't think she's made herself accessible, available to the extent that a person running for president of the United States should be doing. I think this is a smart political strategy now to make herself available, not at the national level, not at the network level, not at the cable level, but instead to go into those battleground states, select the local network affiliate anchor, as she did today with Brian Taft from the ABC affiliate, and consent to that interview. I think he did a fine job, but I don't think they play hardball at the network affiliate level the way that they do at the national level. And so, therefore, I think she'll probably be treated with more kid gloves than she would if she were to sit down at CNN.
Yeah, well, and you know, she's taking those questions. She's talking about things like that she owns a gun, that Tim Walz owns guns.
Yep.
But bigger picture overall with Pennsylvania, what is happening there? Because when I was talking to Governor Shapiro a few days ago, she's underwater there more than she is in places like Michigan or Wisconsin. What is it about Pennsylvania that she needs to do to try to win?
Even though we're constantly lumped with Michigan and Wisconsin, I think that there are distinct differences and that we don't necessarily move as a block. I have no idea who's going to win Pennsylvania. I know all the data. I know all the polling information. I know the state very well, and I know all the anecdotal information of what I'm told from people a butter knife away from me. I don't think that anybody knows what's going to happen in Pennsylvania other than it may all come down to the state. It's a staggering amount of money that's being spent on television commercials. Caitlin, I feel now like I guess the people in Iowa or New Hampshire feel every 4 years. But can I tell the campaigns, stop spending all your money on television, because it's a wash. You know, to be watching an Eagles game, to be watching any other television. Oh, my God, it's one after the other after the other. It's just like enough. I think you have to spend enough to be credible. They've reached that plateau. Spend it somewhere else.
There was definitely, obviously, the debate on Tuesday was in Philadelphia, but there was micro-targeting going on between the two candidates. I want you to listen to what Harris and Trump said on that debate stage.
Let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil.
She will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead.
What have you heard from voters in Pennsylvania?
Okay, my buddy David Urban is going to disagree. He'll probably tweet at both of us tonight when he hears me say this again. I think it's an overblown issue. I think the perception from a national stage is to look at Pennsylvania and say, well, you've got to be supportive of fracking or you can't win. Really? Tell that to Joe Biden and tell that to Josh Shapiro. She's trying to thread a needle now, right, by having this nuanced approach. But for every time someone tells you about a job that's at stake in southwestern Pennsylvania Remember, there's no fracking where I live in the Philly burbs. Nobody's fracking in the city. Nobody's fracking in Montgomery County, Chester, Bucks, or Delaware County. And there, or where I live, there are environmental concerns. So in the end, I think it's almost a wash. I'm not saying it's a meaningless issue, but I think that it's overstated.
That's really interesting because it is something that we talk about a lot. And I also wonder in the context of the contrast of appealing to those people in Bucks County and other places. And then what we're seeing, she's got an event with Oprah planned, the Taylor Swift endorsement, which maybe is a Pennsylvania strength, as Governor Shapiro claims her as Pennsylvania's own.
Yeah.
But what does that look like in terms of voters in Pennsylvania? Do they care at all about that stuff?
Can I tell you what I think is the most important constituency in Pennsylvania, maybe nationally in this election? And it's not one that fits a crosstab in the poll. It's the, oh my God, don't make me vote for him again. Am I going to have to vote for him again? It's the mindset of people who do not like him on a personal level. Listen to all that Laura Loomer bullshit, right? And they're like, this is not a guy I want to vote for. But you know what? The economy's important. And the market was pretty good, and interest rates and so forth. And the price of butter and bread was a hell of a lot less. Gasoline was reasonable. We weren't at war the way we're worried now about Russia and the situation in Gaza. Am I going to have to do this? Go reach those people.
Michael Smerconish and an expletive on a Friday night.
On a school night.
I love it.
It's a school night for me. Remember that.
Thank you so much, Michael Smerconish. Great to have you on set.